Go ahead and turn to the person next to you and tell them you're smart. Now turn to the same person and tell them I'm smarter. All right, that's enough of an ego boost. So let's get on to the real stuff, okay? Hi, my name is Connor. So the talk I'm going to be talking about is unconventional wisdom. We talked a little bit about conventional wisdom, but what is unconventional wisdom? To tell you the truth, I don't know. So if you want to leave, go ahead. That way you can skip the talk. But the thing is, you got to ask yourself, why is it that the richest people tend to work the least? Or is that the happiest people in the world also live in the most poverty state? And also the fact that, why is it that the people who eat the least also live the longest? Well, there's a lot of conclusions that can come to that. But the main important thing is that unconventional wisdom is not really taught in schools, government sectors, or even your career. But instead, it's something that you have to find on your own, and you have to go further and develop it in yourself. You see, we live in a world today of the digital age, and things are moving so fast. Information is at your hands. But the problem is that we take it for instant gratification, and we don't put it to practice and into use. So I'm going to give you 3 simple guidelines that I have used. So raise your hands if you want to have fun, be entertained, or engaged. So I promise I'll try to do my best to do all 3 of those, okay? So before we get into it, I want to ask some of my Facebook friends what they think wisdom is. So about a month ago, I surveyed about 50 people. And this is what they gave me. So I have about 4,300 Facebook friends, but they're not all my real friends, so that's a dark secret I have to keep. But as you can tell, I don't know if they're right, I don't know if they're wrong, but they're very good insights, but let's just say for now that they are right. But can you think of a time when you were 6 years old, right? And you're pondering your mom, hey mom, can I have this ice cream? Can I do this? Can I have money? And you were so curious that you just kept asking questions over and over until she said yes. And then 20 years down the road, when you're 26, all you do is go on YouTube, Wikipedia, look at the information, and that's it. You don't really think or anything. You see, the difference when you were 6 to 26 was a crucial aspect called thinking. Now, I'm going to make this really blunt, is I already know a third of you already like me, a third of you probably dislike me because I had to make you really think. And the reason for that is that thinking creates a lot of new possibilities. And in the theme, unconventional wisdom that I have, it's the fact that thinking nowadays is kind of like a struggle because nobody really challenged you to think. And to be unconventional, you got to be different. So according to the study of the Cambridge University, they found out that our brains indeed got smaller, which is really shocking. And another fact that they found out from the University of Amsterdam is that our IQ point is actually lower 14 points since the Victorian era. Now, it could be due to the fact that we consume a lot of fake foods, fillers. You know, most of it is just about a list of a dictionary in the back of ingredients you can't even read, except for the food here, which is great, by the way, so kudos to you guys. But the thing is that this isn't important. IQ is not important, so that's the good news. You know, people who are super smart have 150 plus IQs, but they're stuck in a dead-end job. They're doing things that they don't really care. Then you have people who barely even pass the 3-digit IQ point, but yet they're making millions, inspiring so many people, and causing such a huge impact. So in my book, The Big Revelation, I was honored enough to interview one of my mentors, Ron Klein, who is one of the probably the best inventors in the world. He's known as the grandfather of possibilities. Now, to get that name, you have to do some amazing stuff in the world. So he created the MLS system for realtors. He's created the magnetic strip in the back of the credit card, and I know all of you know what that is, especially girls when you shop all the time. But here's the thing. I asked him, you know, how did he do all this? What made him so successful? And he attributed it to 3 things. He said, be smart, daring, and different. And for sure, I thought being smart was the best one and the most crucial aspect. And then he said, no, it's actually not. It's being different. Because you see, being smart is being conventional. Because we have information. We have all the resources in the world. But being daring and being different are traits and characteristics that can't be taught, that can only be acquired through wisdom, experience, knowledge, practice, from coaches and from mentors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one of the guidelines that I came up with not too long ago that made me realize that age plays a very little role in wisdom, especially unconventional wisdom, because you see, Ron Klein is almost 60 years older than me. And today also happens to be my birthday. Somehow I got to be here, so that's awesome as well. Thank you. But yet there are people who are also half my age. Now you probably don't even know what my age is, but I'll say that till the end, who are making as much of an impact as Ron, and is even doing some things in the world that is really making an impact. So I came up with these guidelines from age, that we have more than one age. Our first age is our calendar age. It's basically the date you were born. You can't ignore that, unless of course you are me. So just grab on your seats and hear me out for a second. You see, when I was adopted back in 1998, my American families wanted a 6-year-old, so my grandparents had to lie to the government and tell them I was 2 years younger. So they tricked my parents, and they adopted my brother and I basically for the price of one. And as President Donald Trump would say, it's probably the best trade in history. So I was pretty happy about that. Now, that is one of the exceptions, but it's really simple. Your calendar age, really much, you can't do much about it. Now, something more interesting is our physical age. Well, yes, it's our physical age, but before you can guess, you can go back. That's when I was adopted, the picture previous, and I was actually 8 at that time. Now, most people say I was 4, 3, but the thing was that I was 8, so it really doesn't matter that much. Now, our physical age are factors that are influenced by stress, environment, the health condition you're in, the foods that you eat, and also people you associate with and think about as well. Now, your physical age is really important because when I joined the Marine Corps 7 years ago, I saw something really odd and peculiar. There was a lot of old people in the Marine Corps, right? But they were really young. So it was young, old people in the Marine Corps, if that makes any sense. They were in their early 20s or early 30s. But the thing was that a typical Marine's diet consists of Red Bull, tobacco, and usually alcohol before 6 a.m. So it didn't really help with their physical aspect. So even though they were 22, 25, they looked like they were 40. So you see, your physical age is ultimately influenced by those factors that I talked about. Now, there are some people who has defined that and actually made it into a good way. So here we have Kazim. He's the person in the back with the blonde hair and the sunglasses. He's 95 years old. It's actually the bald guy. I don't know his secret, but he's a yogi teacher, and I believe his secret is simple stuff that we have forgotten over the ages. Be happy, live a stress-free life as possible, eat as many fruits and veggies, and get lots of sunlight. I know it's so simple, but it's always the simple things that make you the happiest. So that's Kazim. He looks half the age of what he really is, which is unbelievable. Next, we're going to go a little bit deeper, is our mental age. Now, your mental age, kind of like your physical age, but of course it's determined by your attitude. So it's factors like how you think, what you believe in, your mentors and your coaches, your experience from throughout your life. But the most important thing is being resourceful. See, your mental age, some people say that wisdom comes with age. That is true back then. Nowadays, because we live in such a fast movement, that paradigm has shifted completely around. And so we have here Max, who is half my age. At that time, he invented a Tesla-like device for $14 that gives out free energy. Now, you, of course, being a 13 at the time, it disproves to you that basically the information that he had, he knew how to use it, because it's not what you know or even who you know, it's what you do with the information that you have. And that's so key today. And he's doing some amazing, extraordinary stuff. Now, why is it so important to you? Well, because I noticed success has a lot to do with unconventional wisdom. You see, more millionaires and billionaires are created every day. Every single day, there's a new millionaire being created. Every 4 days, there's a new billionaire being created. That means that there's plenty of money and abundance in the world. So the next millionaire or billionaire could be in this room. Who knows? And then we have our spiritual age. So kind of theming and tying to the theme of Zeitgeist, which is the spirit of time, according to the laws of physics in the universe, energy can't be created or destroyed, right? It can only be transferred. Therefore, it would only make sense that we as spiritual beings are also infinite beings, because time really doesn't exist. It's a man-made concept. And to prove it a little bit further, a British study did a study, and they found out that our consciousness does indeed pass on to the afterlife, and that we, as human species, have energy fields that we can see and feel each other. Now, some of you have less, some of you have more. The average person is about 2 to 3 feet. Through meditation, yoga, better food, and practices, you can raise it to 10 or 15 feet, sometimes as much as 50 feet, like the yogi teacher, Kazim, back there. So it just proves to the point that there does exist a time of infinite life after this. Now, why is this all so important? Why does this matter to you? Well, because here's the thing. When it comes to unconventional wisdom, we tend to follow a lot of the rules that society made up for us. We tend to follow where everybody else goes, right? Everybody else has Snapchat, Facebook, has the football team that they like, and so we believe that we have to be in that team just because they're in there. But unconventional wisdom really has a lot to do with being just original, really just being yourself, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of copycats out there, and people really strive for authenticity and being original. And so there's another guideline that I'm going to use that's even more relevant in the past age timeline that's really going to help you take the unconventional wisdom theory and put it into practical use, because it has helped me create many friends, many successful and very rich and powerful friends that I'm going to help you use as well. So the first one is you must be curious. Remember when you were like 6 years old and you're playing in the dirt and you're even eating dirt? Well, that's curiosity right there, even though you didn't know what it was, but you did it anyways. Or imagine a dog, right? A dog goes around and just sniffs people. Now, I'm not going to ask you to do that because that might get really awkward, but dogs are very curious creatures. They sniff whatever they want, and even animals in general, right? So in order to create that curiosity, there has to be some kind of interest into it. And the cool thing about human brain is you can make anything curious. All it needs is a simple reward. Like some people, it's popcorn. Some people, it's watching music videos. It just really doesn't matter. Next we have is to question. You got to question everything. I remember a time when I was in 10th grade, I had a 79 in math class, and I just got back my report card, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that, a 79, right? And so here's a tip for you, especially if you go to college, is give your teacher chocolate or Starbucks gift card. You'll be the favorite person in class, trust me. Just don't tell them I told you that, okay? And the thing with that is when you question everything, something happens, something extraordinary happens, is that not only do you become curious, but you start to create new neurons and new pathways in your brain cells, and that you start to expand your mind and your creativity, because after all, the only stupid question is no question at all. Next, this is probably my favorite one, is you have to challenge the norm. Be a rebel if you have to. When others go against you, stand up for it, because we live in a time where everybody wants to be left-sided or right-sided, but nobody wants to be themselves these days. So be so conviction in what you believe in. Sometimes, and I'm not saying give up your life for it like they did back then, but if it goes to that point, believe in yourself so much. See, there's a man named Socrates who started a revolution and who disrupted the nation that he lived in back then. He said, true wisdom is not knowing anything. And because of that, he was murdered by his people because he raised a following of thinkers. And thinkers back then were the highest sought out trait because of the fact that back then they had soldiers. And soldiers have one job only, civil obedience without question. And for that, they had to execute him. And then finally, experiment. That's the most important action step of it all. It's not enough just to do a research. It's not enough just to get information from somebody else. It's easy for someone to make $50,000 in one day, but to them, it's harder to lose 50 pounds in 2 years. So what works for them won't work for you. That's why it's great to have mentors and coaches and friends along the way, but at the same time, you have to put in the work, because that's what's ultimately going to make you really, really succeed. So let's play a little game with wisdom, shall we? Go ahead and just ask the person next to you in a sentence or two what they believe unconventional wisdom is. Would you talk to me? Okay, I think that's enough. All right. Now, for those of you that didn't speak, you were the wisest person in the room, believe it or not. So if you didn't speak, you were the wisest person in the room. But to be honest, let's see what wisdom was back then. So as you can see, this was back from the Middle Ages, and I still think it's super relevant today. And so I'm going to leave it on that note and let you think about it a little bit.